Good day, Dr. Philip Kirada, and to all our viewers. Today we will be tackling our second video about tax structures in the Philippines and other third world countries, and I will be citing countries like India, Myanmar, and Thailand, and I will be featuring as well the country Australia to get a glimpse of the difference between a country like Australia and the countries that belong to the third world country. First, let's talk about how the government collects the tax. Most taxes are collected at the time a transfer is being made, whether it is withholding from a paycheck, added to the purchase price of goods at a point of sale, or when a license or permit is issued. In all kinds of government transactions, there's always a tax. And there is how we collect the tax. Moving forward, we have the meaning of property tax. Even our own properties, they have a particular tax that we need to pay. Okay? So, a tax assessed on real estate by the local government. The tax is usually based on the value of the property, including the land you owned. I just remember my grandfather, when he passed away, he has no time to ipamahagi yung mga land niya sa mga anak niya. So what happened is, the family need to pay a big amount of money, about millions, just to change the name of the land from my grandfather to the children and to the wife as well. Okay, so this is part also of the property tax. Moving on, to have the review again of 4 R's, we should always keep in mind the revenue, the redistribution, the repricing, and the representation. These are all the purposes and has a good effect as well in the government. So let's always keep this in mind, that these are the principles that every country are also looking up into. Okay? So now let's compare the difference between progressive, regressive, and proportional taxes. Progressive taxes is when the income goes up, the percent of income tax that you need to pay will go up too. That's why it says progressive. The word progressive means it will also go up as well. As well as in regressive, from the word regress, it means that you are, like for example, in the medical field, you say regression, it means that you are like going back to becoming a child. But regression in the concept of tax, it says here that the income goes up, but the percent of the income paid in taxes goes down. So just the same concept in the medical term, that you are old, but you're regressing because you're acting like a child. So here in regressive tax as well, it says here that your income is going up, but the percent of the income paid in taxes will go down. So that is regression. Now, regressive tax. No, proportional tax, the word proportion, okay? So as the income goes up, the percent of income paid in the taxes stay the same. So it still stays the same because it's proportion, okay? Unlike with a progressive, that if it goes up, the income that you need to pay will be more than what is required, okay? Moving on. The value-added tax is also very important because we are also practicing this in the Philippines. The VAT, an exercise tax based on the value added to a product at each stage of production or distribution. Value added is derived by subtracting from the total value of the product at the end of each production or distribution stage the value of the goods bought at its inception. I can remember last time when I was still working in Cebu City, I was in a very good, fancy restaurant perhaps, like when I was there, I was like, wow, for this fancy restaurant, we will have this a very affordable food. But it was stated there that it was excluded, VAT was excluded. But when they added up the VAT, bam, there comes the bigger pay. Okay, so I'm just saying that we really have this VAT, and that also made our countrymen spend more from the income that they have, especially when they are buying too much goods every month or every. Now let's talk about the Philippine tax structures. Let us start with its history. As I've said in my first video, the pre-colonial society, being communitarian, did not have taxes at all. But as time goes by, then we can see how taxes started as we go along this topic. It says here, as you can see from the picture, a Spaniard, or from the country Spain. We all know that we were colonized by the Spanish. So, during the Spanish period, new income generating means were introduced by the government, such as, first, the Manila-Acapulco galleon trade. I'll be talking further about these things in my slides, in my other slides. First, let's talk about galleon trade. We all know that galleon trade was a government aiming to monopolize the trade, wherein only 2 galleons were used during the time, just to trade. We all know that the Spaniards came to the Philippines. The ancestors, our ancestors to be specific, were already trading with China, Japan, Siam, also known as Thailand, and we have India, Cambodia, Borneo, and Moluccas as well. So when the Spaniards came, they continued to trade, and it became a generating means of the government in our historic era here in the governance of the Spaniards in our country. We also have the polyservicio, or the forced labor. We have the bandada and the encomienda system. Okay? And we have the tribute as well. So these are the means in the government. Moving on. Let's start with Manila-Acapulco galleon trade. As I've said, that in our ancestors before, we already have traded with other countries, but they tried to monopolize this one using the Manila-Acapulco galleon trade. This is the galleon that I am talking about. So it was the main source of income for the colony during these early years. Okay? The galleon trade brought silver from the Nueva Castilla and the silk from China by way of Manila. So we also have the polo y servicio. It's the forced labor for 40 days. How many days again? It's 40 days. So of them ranging from 16 to 60 years of age who are obligated to give personal services to community projects. One could be exempted from the polity by paying a fee called falia, which was worth 1.5 real. So next generating means of the early Philippines is we have the bandala, one of the taxes collected from the Filipinos. So it comes from the Tagalog word mandala, okay, which is a round stalk of rice stalks to be threshold. Okay, so as I've stated in my first video, we have this obligation, even if it's a burden for some Filipinos to do so, but they need to do so. Next is we have the encomienda. Encomienda are large tracts of land given to a person as a reward for a meritorious act. The encomenderos were given full authority to manage the encomienda by collecting tribute from the inhabitants and the governed people living on it. So we are not the only country wherein they have the encomienda system. We can also trace back to the history of America, particularly in some parts of Mexico as well. We can see that the Spaniards brought this system into the land. Tribute as well, on the other hand, was the resident tax during the Spanish times. It may be paid in cash or kind, partly, or wholly. Okay? But in 1884, the tribute was replaced by the cedula. Cedula do exist today. So, cedula personal or personal identity paper equivalent to the present community tax certificate that we have right now. Okay? Next, did you know, just a trivia, ladies and gentlemen, did you know that in the 19th century the cedula served as an identification card that had to be carried at all times? A person who could not present his or her cedula to the Guardia Civil could then be detained for being indocumentado, or means you are not documented. Andres Bonifacio, one of our heroes of our country, and other Katipuneros tore their cedulas last August 1896, signaling the start of the Philippines. Show you definition of cedula. This is the form of the cedula in 1920s. Okay? So the cedula was imposed by the Americans on the January 1st, 1940, when Commonwealth Act number 465 went into effect, mandating the imposition of a base resident tax of 50 centavos and an additional tax of 1 peso based on factors such as income and real estate holdings. So the payment of this tax would merit the issue of residence certificate. Corporations were also subject to residence tax. So these are during the American times. Okay? So also known as the residence certificate or the cedula is a legal identity document in the Philippines, issued by cities and municipalities to all persons that have reached the age of majority, and upon payment of a community tax, it is considered as a primary form of identification in the Philippines, and is one of the closest single documents that the Philippines has to the national system of identification, akin to a driver's license and a passport. So it is likened to the driver's license or the passport. So the cedula is very useful a long time ago. So why cedula is important? A person is required to present a cedula when he or she acknowledges the document before a notary public, takes an oath of office of an election or appointment to a government position, receives a license, certificate, or permit from a public authority. Cedulas will pay, is important because it pays a tax or fee. It receives money from a public fund. It could be used as well. Transacts official businesses, the cedula can be used, or receives salary from a person or a corporation. So that's how cedula is very important during those times. Progressive tax, since the tax base increases as the tax rate increases, then the taxation is founded on the ability of the taxpayer to pay. It is also a combination of the global and schedular systems of taxation. So this is one of the Philippine tax types that I am talking about. So the progressive tax. As we can see here in our slide, in the Philippine tax rates, not over 10,000 pesos income would be like 5%. This is according to the Bureau of Internal Revenue. We also have over 10,000 but not over 30,000. We have 500 pesos plus 10% of the excess over 10,000 pesos. Over 30,000 pesos but not over 70,000 pesos. It would be 2,500 pesos plus the 15% of the excess over the 30,000. We also have over 70,000 but not over 140,000 pesos. That would be a tax rate of 8,500 pesos plus 20% of the excess over 70,000 pesos. So if we have also over 140,000 but not over 250,000, the tax rate would be 22,500 pesos plus 25% of the excess over 140,000 pesos. Moving on, we also have the over 250,000 but not over 500,000 pesos, we have the tax rate of 50,000 pesos plus 30% of the excess over 250,000 pesos. And we have the over 500,000 pesos, we have the tax rate of 125,000 pesos plus 34% of the excess over 500,000 in 1998. So the Philippine sources of our revenue includes the following taxes are national internal revenue taxes, including number 1, the income tax. Number 2, we have the estate and donors taxes. Number 3, value-added tax. Number 4, other percentage taxes. Number 5, excise taxes. Number 6, documentary stamp taxes. Documentary stamp taxes, you can visibly see that one when you are applying in any government transactions, just for example in the PRC, Professional Regulations Commission. I've been working there before coming here in Thailand, and we keep on asking our clients to get a documentary stamp in every, for example, in every renewal, a registration, most especially registration. Okay. So such other taxes as are or hereafter may be imposed and collected by the Bureau of Internal Revenue. So all these sources of revenues will be collected by our very own BIR. Next, the Philippine sources of revenue, let's talk about the tariffs and the duties. So second to the BIR in terms of revenue collection, the Bureau of Customs imposes the tariffs, duties on all items imported into the Philippines according to the Executive Order 206. Returning residents or OFWs and former Filipino citizens are exempted from paying duties and tariffs thanks to the government that us OFWs, when we have these imported goods that we are sending back home, for example, balikbayan taxes, we don't need to pay such taxes. So, but the tariffs and duties, aside from the BIR, another revenue source is from the imported goods, but excluding the overseas Filipino workers or any former Filipino citizens. Next is we have the EVAT, the Extended Value Added Tax. Okay, the form of sales tax that is imposed on the sale of goods and services and on the import of goods into the Philippines. It is a consumption tax. Those who consume more are taxed more. So the concept here, those who consume more are taxed more. Okay, and an indirect tax which can be passed on to the buyer. So the EVAT will have the burden will be passed on to the buyer. So the current EVAT rate is 12% of transactions. So some items which are subject to EVAT includes petroleum, natural gases, indigenous fuels, coals, medical services, legal services, electricity, non-basic commodities, clothing, non-food agricultural products, and domestic travel by air and sea. So we also have another source of revenue is the income taxes. So the income taxes is a tax on a person's income, wages, profits arising from property, practice of profession, conduct of trade or business, or any stipulated in the National Internal Revenue Code of 1997, or known as NIRC, less any deductions may be granted. So income tax in the Philippines is a progressive tax as people with higher income pay more than people with lower incomes. Personal income tax rates vary as such. So it varies from one professional to another depending on the annual income that they will have. In this video, I'll be attaching a particular clip from YouTube showing how do we assess and how do we pay income taxes in particular situations. Okay? So hopefully we learn something from this clip that I will be attaching here.
Oswaldo, magsisimula tayo sa isang case. At habang sinusolve yung case, ipapaliwanag ko na rin ang concepts ng income tax. AJ is an employee of Ateneo Company. He receives an annual salary of 200,000 pesos. He is happily married and has 3 children. His wife is unemployed. He paid a premium on health insurance of 2,000 within the year. He paid the excess tax of 2,000 the previous year to be claimed as tax credit. Determine the income tax that AJ should pay. Nagsisimula ang pag-compute ng income tax sa gross income. In general, all your income from all your sources are part of gross income. Whether ito ay yung sweldo, ang iyong sideline, or kahit yung isang piso na nakita mo sa daan. Lahat po yun gross income. Sa case na ito, si AJ, ang kanyang gross income ay ang kanyang annual salary na 200,000 pesos. Ngunit hindi pa po ito ang income na itatax. Masyado naman malaki ang tax kapag ito lahat-lahat itatax. Kaya nagbibigay ang paraan ng BIR upang bawasan pa ito. Siyempre, the lower the declared income, the lower the tax. Ang unang pwede natin bawasan ay ang tinatawag na basic personal exemption. It represents the portion of your income that is supposed to be for your basic needs. Food, water, shelter. Binabawas ito. Hindi na itatax dahil nga ito ay para sa iyong sariling needs. It is a standard 50,000 pesos. Siyempre, we do not only care for our own needs. First and foremost, we care for the needs of our children. Therefore, may part din ng ating income para sa needs nila. Pwede tayong magbawas ng 25,000 per child, limit of 4 children for this additional exemption. Sa kasong ito, si AJ ay may 3 children. Therefore, 25,000 times 3, pwede po tayong magbawas ng 75,000 pesos from our declared income. Lastly, pwede tayong mag-deduct ng premium on health or hospitalization insurance. May dalawang rules dito. First, the income of the family should not exceed 250,000 pesos. And second, hindi po tayo pwede mag-deduct ng more than 200 per month or 2,400 per year. The family of AJ, him and his wife, bring a total of his annual salary of 200,000, not exceeding 250. So, pwede tayong magbawas. Yung kanyang binayaran lang naman is 2,000 pesos of premiums, which does not exceed the limit of 2,400. So, yun na ang babawasan natin, 2,000 pesos. We subtract all of this from the gross income and we will get the taxable income, which is 73,000. Ito na po ang income na itatax. Ngayon alam na natin ang taxable income ni AJ. How do we know magkano yung tax? Gagamitin natin ang dakilang tax table. The tax table shows different tax brackets and their respective tax rates and rules. The first bracket is from none to 10,000 pesos at ang tax nun ay 5%. Kapag ang iyong income ay 10,000 to 30,000, ang tax ay 500 pesos plus 10% of the excess over 10,000 pesos. Kapag ang iyong income ay over 30,000 but not over 70,000, ang tax ay 2,500 pesos plus the 15% of the excess over 30,000. And so on. Ang income ni AJ ay 73,000 pesos. Therefore, what bracket does AJ belong to? Siyempre dito, sa 70 to 140. At ang kanyang tax rule ay 8,500 plus 20% of the excess over 70. Sulatin na natin yun. Ang kanyang tax ay 8,500 and the excess over 70, syempre 73,000, yung excess ay 3,000. So 3,000 times the rate of 20% at makakuha tayo ng 600. Therefore, ang total income tax due ay 9,100. Ngunit not necessarily na yung tax due, yun na yung babayaran ni AJ sa BIR. Malay mo, meron na siyang nabayaran, or what if kinuha ng kanyang employer na ang kanyang taxes sa kanyang sweldo, or what if sobra ang kanyang binayaran ng isang araw, edi kunti na lang babayaran niya ngayon. Kaya after tax due, binabawasan natin ang tax credit. Sa case na ito, meron po tayong excess tax of 2,000 the previous year binayaran. Therefore, yung sobra, babawasan natin ngayon. At yung matitira, yun lang ating tax liability. Yun na ang kailangan babayaran ni AJ sa BIR, which is in this case, 7,100 pesos. Ngayon, pag-usapan naman natin ang individual earning business or professional income. Mr. Haron, married with 5 children, is in the business of selling video games. He has the following data for his business for the year 2012. Sales of video games, 760,000. Cost of the video games sold, 340,000. Operating expenses, salary of the employees, electricity, the rent, 100,000. He has already paid 20,000 in income tax in the previous quarters. How much is his income tax liability? Since ito ay isang negosyo, nagsisimula tayo sa gross sales. Ito yung income ng isang negosyo. Kapag services, madalas gross receipts or kung profession. Pero equivalent lang po yan sila. Our gross sales are 760,000. Ang pagkakaiba nito sa isa compensation is meron kang mababawasan na hindi mo mababawasan doon. At yon ang expenses. Ang nangunguna sa expenses ay ang cost of sales. Or kung services, the cost of services. Siyempre naman, si Mr. Haron habang nagbebenta ng video games, meron siyang pinagkukunan ng supply ng video games at binabayaran niya yung supplier. Kaya ito po yung kanyang cost of sales. Other than that, hindi po mag-survive ang negosyo ni Mr. Haron kung wala po siyang mga empleyado or pambayad ng kuryente, iba pang mga expenses. Siyempre, mababawasan din natin ang operating expenses. Sa kasong ito, si Mr. Haron ay may operating expenses na 100,000 pesos. Aside from that, halos pareho na sa compensation. Nandyan syempre ang ating personal exemption, which is standard pa rin, 50,000 pesos. And our additional exemption, which is 25,000 per child, as you know. Si Mr. Haron naman, nakikita natin, meron po siyang 5 children. The limit is 4. Therefore, 4 times 25,000 is 100,000. And the last is still PHHI. In this case, wala naman sa case na ito, so 0. One note about additional exemption pala, hindi po pwede i-claim ng both parents ang mga lahat ng anak for additional exemption. General rule, only the father can claim additional exemption. Okay. So, i-total na po natin ito. And that will lead to a total of 170,000. At yan ang ating taxable income. And then, we do the same thing as kanina. 170,000 ang taxable income ni Mr. Haron. Anong bracket siya? He would fall under dito. 140,000 but not over 250. So, ang sabi dito, 22,500. Tapos, 25% of the excess over 140. The excess over 140, since 170 yun, is 30,000. Times yung 25%, at makukuha natin yung 7,500. At ang ating tax due para kay Mr. Haron ay 30,000 pesos. Once again, after tax due, mababawasan pa natin ang mga tax credit. Dito sa case na ito, ang sabi, he has already paid 20,000 in income tax in the previous quarter. Hindi na po niya kailangan babayaran yung 20,000. So, ibabawas natin yung 20,000. At ang matitira, ang kailangan babayaran ni Mr. Haron sa BIR ay ang 10,000 pesos. Babalikan natin yung computation kanina. Dito sa may expenses. Para mabawasan ang mga expenses na ito, kailangan each expense should be supported by hard evidence. Tulad ng mga resibo. Kung wala po yung mga iyon, hindi po natin ito mababawasan. May problema po yun. Paano naman si Manong Fish Vendor? Hindi naman po natin ni-expect na halos lahat ng transaksyon ni Manong Fish Vendor nakaresibo po habang siya ay bumibili ng isda sa kanyang supplier at ifa-file niya doon sa tabi ng kanyang mga isda. Hindi po practical yun. Kaya ang BIR na ay nagbigay ng paraan, ang optional standard deduction. It works this way. Instead of expenses, ang babawasan natin ay ang optional standard deduction instead or ang OSD. Ito ay 40% ng gross sales. And that is 304,000, I'm sorry. Ang advantage nito, hindi na ito kailangan i-substantiate or i-defend. Understood correct na ito. Convenient for Manong Fish Vendor. Convenient also for the BIR. Hindi na nila i-check isa-isa yung mga resibo. Understood correct na po yan. Optional standard deduction. So in this case, syempre, the taxable income will also change. Ito ay magiging 306,000.
And now, moving on, we will be talking about the country Thailand. Sawadee krap, as the greetings here. So Thailand base their income tax returns or pay the money or a tax to the revenue department. Okay? So to give you a short glimpse of the history, the Revenue Department of Thailand was founded on the 2nd of September 1915 by the King Rama VI, following on from the King Rama V. King Rama's vision to establish countrywide infrastructure. So at first it started with a vision by King Rama V, but then it turned out that the taxation occurred during the time of King Rama VI. But without vision, this particular system will not be made. Okay? So the aim was first to build a countrywide infrastructures, then taxation happened in the 1915. So this is the Thailand tax structures. So the progressive tax rates. Tax rates of the personal income tax. So the taxable income is in here, the marginal taxable income, and the tax rates. The tax rates started from the exemption to different percentage from 10, 20, 30, and 37. So what we can see, as we can see here, it started from 0 to 150,000 from 2008 onwards. The currency actually here is Thai baht. So if your marginal taxable income is within the range of 150,000, then you are exempted. Okay? But if your taxable income is started from 150,000 baht to 500,000 baht, then your marginal taxable income will be roughly from 350,000. Then you will have a 10% tax rate, and so on and so forth. I have a personal encountered interview with my adjourned head here in my school in Anuban Kanuniyong School here in Ngao. So I had an interview with her, asking her about this one, and she is actually in the tax rate of exempted because her salary income didn't reach 300,000. So please watch the video. Hello, good morning everyone to our respected Dr. Philip. Good morning, and to all our viewers. And today we will be having a short interview regarding our topic about taxation. So we have here our beloved, respected, beautiful, my head, Ajan Chumpunahap. Ajan, good morning. Can you introduce yourself to our viewers?
Hello everyone, my name is Sarah. You can call me Kushu.
Okay, so Kuchumpu, here we are tasked to ask about taxation. So I just want to know, being a part of the ASEAN or the Association of Southeast Asians here in Thailand, as part of the ASEAN countries, I just want to know about your taxation here. So what is your thoughts about taxation?
I think it's good for government. It's helpful.
It helps in the development. So that's nice. So for you personally, is it a burden to pay the tax? No, wow, I love that because in some instances in the Philippines, some payers were like they don't like to pay. So wow, it's not a burden for you. That's the difference, guys, of having a nationalistic heart here from the Thailand people. Okay, so Ajanahab, how and when and where do you pay your taxes? First, let's start with how.
When I get document from the government and income salary not related for the tax, I don't need to pay anything when I have.
You don't need to pay anything. So you have a category. So if you don't belong to the category, you don't need to pay anything. If I ask, how much is the money that you need to have so that you need to pay?
How much income is over 300,000 in 1 year?
Okay.
You need to pay the tax, but you can get tax deduction and some document of expression insurance.
Okay. So guys, if they have if your salary in one fiscal year is like 300,000, over 300,000, then you need to pay. But like my adjourn here, if it doesn't reach like 300,000, then you're not paying anything. Okay? So if you have 300,000 over, then you can pay the tax, but you can get some deduction from the taxes if you have the insurance or any expenses that you can give through documents as well. So for example, if you pay for an insurance, perhaps like health insurance or educational plan for your daughter for Mo, so maybe you have a deduction as well, right? Wow. Okay, so let's continue. When do you usually pay? When do you pay your taxes? Of every year. You pay every March. Okay, thank you. So, how about where do you pay your taxes?
I pay tax at Fiscal. It's called revenue area. It's located at the
Revenue area. How is it in Thai again? The name of revenue area? Oh, I cannot say it. Okay, but it's located in Lampang. It's actually like 1 hour or more than an hour here from our district. Okay, so do taxpayers pay in different fees? Like for example, if you're a doctor, you're a nurse, you're a teacher, it's not the same?
Yes, they are not the same. It's simple. Like me, my category belong to tax exemption.
So it really depends on your income. Okay. So last question, Ajan. Do you think taxation affects positively in the country Thailand? And can you please give some examples if it is beneficial?
Yes, it's beneficial. It helps build news, such as building or school. It supports government school
that the government is also the one supporting Ano Ba Now Panoniyong School in its programs? Wow, perhaps they are the ones paying me here. So thank you very much for your time, Ajanaka, Sawadika. Thank you very much. And guys, thank you for viewing. Bye-bye. Now welcome to the country of Republic of Union of Myanmar, or also known as Burma. So the BIR of the country Burma is also known as the Ministry of Finance and Revenue. So this is the area where the tax is collected and also assessed. Okay? So Burma tax history. The Burmese income tax was passed in 1974. From that point on, the income taxes covered state-controlled enterprises, cooperative societies, including agricultural societies, foreign investments, personal salaries, foreigners, those in service of a foreign firm, for example. They also have non-resident citizen earnings and all partnerships with the above mentioned. Because Burma is a highly unstable country, seemingly endless war with its ethnic minority, taxes can be hard to collect. So, therefore, the code was made as simple as possible. So, Myanmar tax type includes taxes levied on domestic production and public consumption, taxes levied on income and ownership, customs duties, and taxes levied on the utility of state-owned properties. So Burma's sources of revenue includes taxes on income, profits, and capital gains are levied on the actual or presumptive net income of individuals, on the profits of corporations and enterprises, and on capital gains, whether realized or not, but it should be part of the sources of revenue, even if it is not realized. It also includes on the lands and insecurities and other assets as well. So those are the sources of revenue of the country Burma. So intergovernmental payments are eliminated in consolidation. Okay, so sad to say. So Burma tax rate. So in my right side are the taxpayers, and in my left side are the rates. So they don't have any specific rates, unlike in Thailand and in the Philippines, based on particular incomes. It is according to some particular rates. But here in Burma, they just have a particular percentage. So for example, for companies formed in Myanmar under Myanmar Companies Act or any other existing Myanmar law, then these companies should pay 30%. Then enterprise operating under the UNFIO, they also need to be paid 30%. Foreign organization engaged under special permission in a state-sponsored project, enterprise or any undertaking, 30%. Individual foreigners engaged under specific permission in a state-sponsored project, enterprise, or undertaking. So these are not organizations, these are not companies, these are individual foreigners. Still, they need to pay 20%. Income earned abroad by non-resident citizen on gross income, 10%. Even people working earned abroad should be taxed with 10%. So we can basically see in here that they are very specific, that in every endeavor in their country, there is a particular tax that they need to pay. I guess no exemption in here, because that's how their structure is. But in terms here in Thailand, me personally, I haven't tried paying any taxes at all in this country, because maybe I am under the 350,000 marginal rate. So I guess that is the reason why. But I guess the American or the other teachers who are earning about roughly 35,000 or more every month will have the annual of more than 250, then they need to pay. Next is we have the income earned by resident foreigner. Okay? So 15% for that, and capital gain for the resident, and we have also the capital gain for non-resident foreigners. They differ a lot. Okay, for a resident, you have 10%. But if you're a non-resident and you have capital gain, then you need to pay 40%. The salary, progressive rates ranging from 3% to 30%, basing at 30% on income exceeding 500,000 kyat. Okay, so the currency in this country is called kyat. Then we have professional income, business income, property income, income from other sources, and income from undisclosed sources of individual. Needs to tax progressive rates ranging from 5% to 35% at 35% on income exceeding 2 million won kyat. So that's it. Now let's move on to the next country, the country of India. India is, they collect taxes under Income Tax Department of India. So Indian tax history. The organizational history of the Income Tax Department starts in the year of 1922. The Income Tax Act of 1922 gave for the first time a specific nomenclature to various income tax authorities. The income tax government of India has introduced this method of taxation in order to stabilize the economy of the country. The money that is collected by way of taxes is spent on the welfare of the country and its citizens. The income tax government of India have taken out different types of taxes. The income tax rates India are of 3 types. So there are 3 types that they are practicing. So they are of the progressive, of the proportional, and of the regressive type of taxes or taxation. Can you still remember the 3 types of taxation that I discussed to you a while ago? Hopefully so. So these are the 3 things that they are having in their country. So this is according to the Income Tax Department, Department of Revenue, Ministry of Finance, Government of India. So the sources of revenue of the country India is, first is direct taxes. Second is they have also the indirect taxes. And the third is the deficit financing. Fourth includes international borrowings. Okay. Now, as I've said in the introduction, that I will be citing a country that doesn't belong to the third world country, and that is Australia. Australia, they pay their taxes and have it assessed, their income taxes, through Australian Taxation Office. So, the history of Australian taxation, at the end of the 19th century, each of these 6 Australian colonies had distinct tax systems, which were almost entirely reliant on customs and excise duties. The design of these tax systems was largely driven by administrative concerns rather than principles of equity or efficiency. Again, I would like to highlight this. The design of these tax systems were largely driven by, first, administrative concerns rather than principles of equity or efficiency. So it really shows that they are really a rich country already, because they are not basing the principles on efficiency. That it will be that the income of the country, of the government, is not based on this, but rather it is driven by administrative concerns. Customs duties were also designed to act as trade barriers between the colonies. One of the significant results of Federation in 1901 was the removal of all duties on goods traded between Australian states. Okay, there are many forms of taxation in Australia. Individuals and companies in Australia may be required to pay taxes or charges to all levels of government, both local, they have also the state, and they have the federal governments. So they are in a kind of government wherein there's federalism. Soon enough, maybe, no? In our own country. Taxes are collected to pay for public services and transfer payments, redistribution of economic wealth. Income taxes are the most significant form of taxation in Australia and collected by federal government through the Australian Taxation Office. Australian GST revenue is collected by the federal government and then paid to the states under the distribution formula determined by the Commonwealth Grants Commission. Again, this formula was determined by, again, the Commonwealth Grants Commission. So, as they are under federalism, they have their own federal government, and it will be paid on under the distribution formula stated in the Commonwealth Grants Commission. Okay, so here is the tax rates from 2011 to 2012. Applying this one started from $0 to $6,000. We'll have a tax of this income nil. $6,001 to $37,000. They have 15 cents for each $1 over $6,000. So these above rates that we can see here do not include the flood levy and does not include the Medicare levy of 1.5%. Okay. So we can really see a large difference between a third world country and having this kind of country. As far as my knowledge is concerned, I do believe that Australia right now has a lot of Chinese citizens buying off properties in their land, which also help boost their GDP. And I believe that for the longest time, the GDP of Australia is stable enough. So basically, the purpose of taxation, ladies and gentlemen, is in helping out the GDP of the country to maintain. So hopefully you and me are a very good taxpayer. Soon enough, when I go back home, I will also need to pay some ample amount of money under the OYPOEA, some amounts to for the OFWs, but I don't have to pay any taxes in our bureau. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope you learned something out from my discussion today about tax structures in the Philippines.